And we'll get going here.
Great.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Coffee with Ben. My name is Ben Blackman. I'm the Director of Development for Ridge, which is a group of innovation consultants based in St. Petersburg, Florida. Before we get started today, as always, I want to encourage everybody out there to go to the Ridge YouTube page and our new website. That's ridge.com. You can also schedule your own Coffee with Ben session. Doesn't mean you have to be on the show, although we'd love to have you. We can just talk about how Ridge can help your company innovate more effectively. This show focuses on how companies and organizations innovate, strategically plan for the future, and create a strong culture for their employees. Super excited this morning to welcome our guest. His name is Devon Laney. He is the president and CEO of 36 Degrees North, which is a base camp for entrepreneurs in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thanks for joining me this morning, Devon. How are you?
Yeah, great. Hey, thanks for having me, Ben. I'm great.
Great. I always like to start these interviews by talking a little bit about our guest's professional journey. I know that you went to school and spent a few decades working in Alabama in a variety of roles. You were in marketing and business strategy, worked your way up to COO and president and CEO of an organization called Innovation Depot. I'm curious, how did you end up with the opportunity to move all the way to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and assume the role that you're in now, which is president and CEO of 36 Degrees North?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you never really know your career path. I don't think when you start out, you may have plans for what you think is going to happen, but doesn't actually always go that way. I'm very fortunate because I've had great opportunities really throughout my career to take a chance, to take a risk, to do something that maybe was outside my comfort zone, learn something new, go into a new space, work with people that I felt were leaders in a space, and really learn from them. And so I've been able to do that really at every step of the journey. And was in Birmingham, and as you mentioned, at Innovation Depot, we were seeing a lot of success, having a great impact on the community, really driving economic development through entrepreneurship, and seeing that community begin to really blossom as a startup or entrepreneurial hub in that part of the country, and so was really not looking to go anywhere, to be just totally honest, and got a call like one does from recruiter, and she was really smart, probably the smartest recruiter I've ever had a call from, because typically they'll call you and say, well, hey, there's this role, do you know anyone that might be interested in the role? And if she had said that, I probably would have said no, honestly. But she didn't say that, and she called me and said that she was working with a group in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was really looking to grow their entrepreneurial ecosystem, and had I heard of Tulsa, Oklahoma? And I said no. And then she said, well, would you be willing to just have a conversation with them about what you've learned in your work in Birmingham, and maybe there are some lessons you can transfer to what's happening in Tulsa? They would be eager to just pick your brain. Mm-hmm. And I said, absolutely, sure. If I can be of any help, then I would love to do that. And so that led to multiple conversations, which led to them saying, hey, why don't you come out to Tulsa and take a look and see things, boots on the ground. And I did that. And then that led ultimately to them saying, why don't you come out and really help us do this? And Ben, I really, again, I was very proud of what was happening in Birmingham, proud of what we had accomplished. But I also, over the last 10, 15 years, I've realized that I'm a good builder. And I enjoy it, and I enjoy building. And so, can I maintain things? Yes. Do I enjoy it as much? Not as much. And I also believe that there was just an incredible opportunity in Tulsa to build something unique, to build something that can drive incredible impact in this part of the country, and to do it, and frankly, in an unexpected place. And that was very appealing to me. And so I thought, if I can go to Tulsa and help make a difference there and drive this impact and drive the growth of this entrepreneurial community here, that sounds appealing to me. And it takes me out of my comfort zone, and it puts me into a position where I've got to really build something and begin to drive a lot of this activity again. And all those things were very appealing to me. And so I was fortunate to be offered the opportunity to come to Tulsa, and I'm grateful that I was given the opportunity and that I took the opportunity, because Tulsa is a fantastic community there's incredible opportunity here to really do something innovative and impactful, and really, I think, again, in an unexpected place that we will look up in 5 to 10 years, and Tulsa will have shifted dramatically. And I think people around the country are already beginning to, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll really begin to look at Tulsa as a hub for innovation, entrepreneurship, and doing it in a very inclusive, diverse, vibrant community that is driving the economic impact for the region. So I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to have the opportunity to come here.
That's great. And we're very excited for you. And 36 degrees north, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the latitude for Tulsa, or is it longitude?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's one of those. I'm not sure exactly which one.
I can never get them straight.
I think it's latitude, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But that
We'll
is
go
for
with that.
Tulsa. And you describe yourselves as a base camp for entrepreneurs. So the mission is to help startup founders, small business owners, freelancers, give them the opportunity to work in a beautiful space. You give them the resources. You mentioned there's a diverse community there that can kind of come together and drive that impact to the region. How do you measure the effectiveness of your efforts and the growth you've seen already in 2 years? You talked about it. You want to put Tulsa on the map, so to speak. Are there quantifiable metrics that you put to that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think honestly, Ben, that's one of the largest challenges for organizations like ours across the country is, how do you really begin to capture metrics that are meaningful in a way that are not just sort of anecdotal, right? But that are actually data driven, that showcase the work you're doing and the impact you're having. And so when I got to Tulsa, when I got to 36 degrees north, which had been around for about 3 years when I got here, I asked that question. I said, okay, well, we need to start really capturing the data and reporting on the metrics of success that will demonstrate, I think, the impact of entrepreneurship on the region and what we're trying to build. And really, they had not ever really done that. I mean, they had reported on things. They had reported more on activity as opposed to the actual results. So they had reported on things like, we had this many workshops, or we had this many visitors, or we drank this many cups of coffee. And those are great. Those are great, fun, sort of storytelling activity metrics. But one of the things that I felt was really important for us moving forward was to capture sort of 5 key data points around the overall economic impact of what we're trying to do, which is drive entrepreneurship. And so that was capturing number of companies that we served, number of jobs created or retained, gross sales of those companies, gross investment dollars or capital raised, wherever the source is, and then finally that direct economic impact. Those 5 metrics, we could capture and report on those annually and really begin to build the story and show the growth of our ecosystem. And so we capture that data and we report on that data. We issue every year, usually in the first quarter of the year, an annual impact report, which summarizes those key pieces of information from the previous year, as well as those other metrics that they were already reporting. So things like the number of workshops and the number of mentor sessions and the number of connections that are made and telling the story of what took place over the course of the year. But the key metrics that we really focus on are those 5 that we report in the economic impact statement every year, just to show that, hey, we have a baseline and here's what happened over the course of the year.
Right. Well, we at Ridge had the opportunity to actually work with you and 36 degrees north and talked about storytelling. That's something that we worked on and kind of plotting that strategic vision. I'd love to know from your perspective what you were able to take out of that work together. How's that impacted your vision for the future of the organization?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and you're spot on. I've known Michelle for a while, worked with her at MBIA and with Ridge at MBIA, and just does incredible work. And so when I got to Tulsa and I realized that we were going to really have to take the organization and evolve the organization beyond just being only a co-working space to being a true driver of entrepreneurial support in the region and all of the programming and the infrastructure and the resources that were going to be required. I knew that we were going to have to pivot the organization. And one of the things that I felt was most important in that was to make sure that we had the input of the community and the stakeholders and the entrepreneurs that we wanted to serve, and that it was everyone was bought in to where we were going and why we were going to go in that direction, and everyone was committed to making that happen, both from a board perspective, from a team perspective, from a stakeholder community, and that everyone was aligned around that. And one thing I've learned in my years of work is that you may come in and already sort of have in mind, okay, this is where I think we should go, this is what I think we should do. You'll be able to achieve much greater success if you can make that a shared vision and really bring people to the table with you to help you craft what that's going to be. And Michelle and you all at Ridge came. We brought you in to really help us not only craft what that 5-year big vision, that strategy was, but to help us bring in the insights and the context and the expertise of our board and our stakeholders to get them fully aligned and fully engaged with this new vision, this pivot of the organization. And so those days that we spent working on fleshing out the nuts and bolts of what that strategic plan was going to look like and what the organization was going to be focusing on was really important. But I think just as important was helping us really craft that narrative of that shared vision and that shared goal of where we all wanted the organization and Tulsa to be in 5 years, and how that was uniquely something that 36 Degrees North was positioned to do. And then having everyone here around the table bought into that vision, fully supportive of that vision, and willing to work to achieve what we were trying to do. Ridge helped us tremendously throughout all of that. I'm really not just saying that because I'm in a conversation with you now. I mean, I've shared that conversation with others who've reached out to me just about Ridge and the work that was done and the value of the work that was done, and it was really helpful. Just put it that way, very helpful.
And we're certainly very proud of the work and excited to see what you and everyone at 36 Degrees North is doing moving forward. And you mentioned pivots, you mentioned a lot of different stakeholders. I have to ask, obviously, about last year and the pandemic. Part of your success is attributed to the close relationships that you have with both the public and the private sector. How did you personally and how did the organization as a whole adjust to the way that you had to work with government agencies, universities, and then the community at large in response to the pandemic that hit last year?
Yeah, that's that's a great question. I think like everyone, Ben. I mean, we navigated it as best we could, right? I mean, we altered the way we provided resources, the way we provided content. We changed the way that we tried to provide community or build community and relationships. We changed all of that, and really, I give all the credit in the world to my team. I mean, I just was so impressed every day when we switched from being in person to remote to working from home. We shut our doors. In March of last year, we closed, and so suddenly a big portion of our value proposition, which is the in-person community relationships, resources, all of those interactions, those relationships, suddenly all that goes away, right? I mean, that's a big chunk of your business, if not most of your business. And I give so much credit to our team here, and every day I was so impressed with their ability to be proactive in how they would engage with our members and the entrepreneurs, and how they would really think creatively about, how can we deliver this value? How can we deliver this resource? How can we make this relationship valuable, under these circumstances? How can we continue? How can we provide information that is relevant, that's not just overwhelming to everyone? How do we do this in a unique way? So I number one, I give all the credit in the world to my team for being able to just stay the course, stay very focused on what we were doing, but thinking creatively and proactively about how to deliver that value in a constantly sort of changing and evolving landscape. The second thing is we stayed very focused on working with our community partners. So because we realized that we weren't the only ones going through all of this, and that they were all going through it too. And so
Mhm.
we continued to work very closely with our city partners, our partners in the county, our partners at our support organizations, both from a philanthropic standpoint and a corporate standpoint, community standpoint, our education partners. We continued to work with them and keep the dialogue open constantly throughout all of that, because we realized that they were going through the same thing. We were trying to navigate and learn how to best provide value and how we could support each other in doing that throughout. And so an example of that was early on. I mean, as soon as the PPP program came out, I mean, or was announced even, we went right to some of our partners at financial institutions and said, okay, we know this is going to be important. As soon as you all can figure out exactly how you're going to handle this, we'd love to do a workshop and a fireside chat and just a Q&A about this
Mhm.
and provide that value to our members. So we didn't wait for them to come to us and say, oh, we're launching this program, here's how to do it. We went right to them and said, how can we use your knowledge and skills and expertise in this area and provide that and amplify that message to our members? And so we did that a lot. And again, I'm so proud of the way that I think the community responded as a whole, but also my team here, and just being proactive and continuing to engage and have those conversations.
That's great, and it sounds like you're in a good spot as a result of it.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
If you're just joining us, you are watching Coffee with Ben. I'm Ben Blackman. I'm the Director of Development for Ridge, which is a group of innovation consultants based in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm joined today by Devon Laney. Devon is the president and CEO of 36 Degrees North, which is a base camp for entrepreneurs in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We were just talking a little bit about response to the pandemic. You mentioned that you were getting PPP funds. You also just announced last year that 36 Degrees North received $1.25 million in CARES Act funding, and that'll be used to develop and launch an incubator for high growth startups. What can you tell us about the process of receiving that funding, first of all, and then the status of that project and what it means to the organization moving forward?
Yeah, thank you. No, we're super fortunate to be able to take advantage of that partnership with the city of Tulsa, to really create something innovative and new for this region. It's part of our evolution from being, again, strictly a co-working space to a much larger entrepreneurial support organization that provides the right infrastructure and resources and community. We knew we needed to have the right kind of space for high growth entrepreneurs that are building scalable businesses and driving economic impact. We've got incredible co-working space, and that's great for individuals and solo entrepreneurs and freelancers, remote workers. But we knew we needed to have this other piece, which is really focused on supporting the growth of these businesses, right? The people that want to build a business, raise capital, scale, grow, and ultimately continue to launch and grow those businesses. We knew we needed to have the right kind of space for that. And so early on, we were looking at different locations. Conversations with the city came up, and the city said, "Look, we've got some capacity in our building downtown that we own, which is called One Technology Center, which is an incredible building. Maybe there's a way we can partner to make this happen." And so we worked closely with the city to think through what that looked like. And then right in the middle of all of that, we were thinking about putting in all these hard walls and doing construction.
Yeah.
And then COVID happens, and all those plans change. And we began to think through, gosh, how are we going to do this in an age of COVID, or maybe even post COVID? And how are we going to make sure that we're being safe and thoughtful and responsible in terms of spacing and flexibility within the space, and individuals having the capacity, or companies having the capacity to, as they grow, flex a space up or down depending on the needs and what they feel comfortable with. And we're fortunate that as part of the CARES Act, there was a large sum of money that was distributed to the state to help with COVID recovery and response. And one of the big challenges that the Tulsa region faces, and really Oklahoma in general, but Tulsa, is that it has been dominated for a long time by one or two key industries, which is great. When those industries are doing well, it's fantastic, right? But when those industries are not doing well, it's
Mhm.
really devastating to the economy. And so thinking through not only how could we respond to the pandemic and how could we help with the recovery as people were either relaunching businesses or people had been furloughed or lost their jobs, they're now starting their own businesses. So not only how can we help in that regard, but how can we help launch businesses and drive growth in industries that were more diverse than our current economy represented. And so in conversations with the city, we said, look, we can use some of those dollars to really help us develop and launch this high growth incubation space, which will aid in the recovery and response from COVID as we rebuild and come out of this. But B, it will also help us as we think about diversifying our economy here locally and creating more new companies and more job growth and more economic impact in areas that weren't traditionally strong for the Tulsa region. And so fortunate to have that. We're excited about that space. It will be the largest technology high growth incubation space in the state of Oklahoma. We think one of the largest in this part of the country. Actually, it's 50,000 square feet, and we'll be opening July 1st. So we're thrilled about that, and
Yeah.
the response has been really overwhelming. Great response from startups and entrepreneurs as well as capital providers to physically be in that space. So we're thrilled about that.
Very exciting. We'll have to provide an update once you guys open up in
Yeah,
July.
I hope you'll come visit.
Yeah, I would love to. We spoke a little bit about the community involvement in Tulsa. I know that this summer there's a very significant milestone in Tulsa, and that's the 100th anniversary of the destruction of Black Wall Street. As a leader in the community now, I'm curious how you view the progress being made in terms of including diverse entrepreneurs into the region's economic future.
Yeah, it's such a. I'm so glad you brought that up. Such a great question. Honestly, and this is me being totally transparent with all of this. I had never heard of the Tulsa Race Massacre until I came to Tulsa, and that in and of itself, I think, is part of the problem, and it's appalling that we don't know about that, and it's not widely communicated across the country. Um, and I think if you look at what that event did at the time, in completely devastating Black Wall Street, which is the largest concentration of wealth in the African American community in this country at the time, and completely devastating that. Not only what it did at that point in time, but what it has continued to do in the years since. Not only from the perspective of just diminishing the Black Tulsa's Black community, their ability to really continue to grow and build wealth and build businesses, but also the mistrust that I think it generated and it created in the community, right? The mistrust and the lack of faith that that community had the ability to really do something here, and that people would support that. And as an outsider, not from Tulsa, but someone being here and looking and observing, I see that obviously there's been progress made, but I do believe there's still so much that could be done and it should be done to really encourage the growth of Black-owned businesses, and really thinking about how do we help reclaim what Black Wall Street was? How do we help support the community as they think about what the next iteration of Black Wall Street can be? And maybe that's technology based. Maybe it's it's retail. I don't know what it is, but I feel like Tulsa as a whole needs to be the best version of Tulsa we can be. And I think that means we need to look and feel and support the community as a whole. And specifically, that's not going to happen just organically. We have to be very intentional with that, and we have to be thoughtful about how to do it in an authentic way. And so at 36 Degrees North, we're trying our best just to listen, and to support where we can, and to tell the community and tell all our friends in the community, we're here to listen. We're not here to come in and drop in and tell you what to do and how to do it and what you should do. We're here to listen and support, and to amplify your message and amplify the work you're doing. And if we can be helpful in any of those ways with the resources that we have or the platform that we have, we certainly want to do that. But I do think Tulsa still has a ways to go, and I think but I think the positive in all that, Ben, is that the community is and the community at large, I think, understands that. I think there is an understanding that, oh gosh, this is something that happened, and it's a terrible, terrible thing that happened. And what can we do? How can we come together as a community now to not only just recognize that it happened, but to ensure that nothing like that ever happens again, and then also to support now the growth that has been missed out on because of that event. And even at 36 internally, when I got here, and I walked in and I looked around the space, I said, I feel like for us to be successful in Tulsa, entrepreneurship and the opportunity that entrepreneurship brings and the ability it brings to provide economic mobility and growth, those things have to be equally accessible to everyone in the community, right? We can't focus on this group or this group. We have to provide this for all Tulsans. And we have to make sure that everyone is aware of the resources that we provide and the assets that we can help bring to bear to support businesses and support entrepreneurs, and the training and the workshops and the relationships and all those things. Like anything, if you're not aware of those things, right, you're not going to take part of them. You don't even think of them as a potential opportunity for you. So we have to make sure that people are aware. We have to make sure that we're doing it in an authentic way throughout the community, and that we're seen as a partner to support the work that is already going on, and not coming in to drop in and say, hey, here's what you do and here's how you do it, but to say, we're here to listen and support and help in any way we can by using the platform that we have and the resources that we have. But it has to be community led, and the community has to be the voice that's driving that growth. But we're here to support that any way we can. So I'm sad that I didn't know about the Tulsa Race Massacre until I came to Tulsa. But since I've been here, I've seen really, I think, the impact it had and continues to have. But I think I've also seen the opportunity that it presents us as a community to say, this was wrong. It's not going to happen again. And this is how we're going to support the rebirth and the growth of Black entrepreneurship in Tulsa. And that makes me very proud, because I feel like all eyes are going to be on this part of the country, on our city and Greenwood and Black Wall Street this year specifically. Yeah. And I don't want it to be, what I've said to a lot of people is, I hope it's not, we behave and we do things right while everyone's looking, right? Mm-hmm. That we all do these things only while people are looking, and that, next year when no one's looking anymore, or the attention is gone, that we go back to just doing things the same way we've always done them. I hope that's not the case. I mean, I hope that we really seize on the opportunity to create new opportunity, create new access to entrepreneurship and the resources, and we support that work, and that transforms the path for the Black community, the Black entrepreneurial community in Tulsa going forward long term, not just this year. So we have a ways to go, but I'm excited about where we are and the fact that people are focused on it and doing. There's a lot of community support and a lot of alignment around this in Tulsa. So, but like everyone, I mean, I'm not from here, and I'm learning, and we at 36 are doing our best to listen and learn and support where we can.
Yeah, that's great perspective. And I appreciate you sharing that on a topic that's obviously very serious and meaningful to the area. And so it'll be interesting to see again this summer everything that happens as a result of that. But I'm glad to hear that you guys are getting involved and listening and hoping to make the region a better place.
Absolutely.
So we'll transition to something a little bit lighter. We got a few minutes left, and always like to end this with something that we call the Benny Good Times Fast Five. It's fast, 5 fast questions that will allow us to get to know you a little bit better on a personal level. We talked about your move to Tulsa. You've been there for a couple of years now. I'm curious what your favorite thing is about the area.
Gosh, this is probably going to sound really hokey, but the community, the people, the community here has been really incredible. I mean, granted, for a year of me being here has been the pandemic, but gosh, when I got here, there is such a sense of pride and community for Tulsa that I've never experienced anywhere else I've lived. I've lived in a lot of cities, a lot of different places. When I got to Tulsa, everyone is so proud to be from Tulsa, right? When you drive through neighborhoods, you'll see more Tulsa flags than you'll see anything, right? I mean, the city has its own flag, its own logo that was crowdsourced, right? It wasn't something done, it's a crowdsourced flag, official flag for the city, and you'll see that everywhere you go. And when I got here, people were talking constantly with pride about Tulsa. Tulsa's going to be the next Tulsa. Tulsa's not going to be the next Nashville, the next Austin. It's going to be the next Tulsa. And people are just so proud of Tulsa. That sense of community and that spirit of pride for what Tulsa has been, what it is today, and where it can be, and what it can be going forward. Gosh, it's just been really overwhelming. And I've been so incredibly impressed by the community here, the people here, and their pride of the city and the pride of Tulsa and where we're going to go.
That's great. Well, then the next question is that if I give you a free ticket to travel anywhere in the world and normal times, there's no restrictions here, where would you go?
Gosh, for me, it's simple. So it'd be England, and specifically Wales.
Okay.
I have a lot of family. My family from all my mom's side is from England and Wales specifically, and I haven't seen them since 2019 because of all this. And I would love to, if I could go tomorrow, I would get on a plane and go visit family and go see them in the UK and in Wales, and spend a week there and have some clarity of mind and thought. And it's just a beautiful place, and it always to me feels very much like home, even though I'm not from there, wasn't born there, but it always feels like home to me when I go. So that's where I'd go.
Hopefully you get a chance to do that sooner than later.
Well, let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Question 3 is, what is your favorite movie?
Oh gosh, this is probably I'm such a okay. I love Indiana Jones, and everyone laughs. I mean, it's not a very serious movie or a drama. The big classics. I grew up. I loved Indiana Jones. Man, if it was Harrison Ford, and I could watch those things, I can still. If I'm sitting around the house, I'm like, what movie do I want to watch? I'll put in like Raiders of the Lost Ark, just because I just love Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
So any of those movies to me are fantastic, and for no reason other than I grew up. They're fun. I think there's such great films, right?
They're classics for sure.
Yeah.
Question 4: if I were to put you on stage for a talent show and force you to perform something, what would you do?
Yeah, I'd sing a song.
Okay.
I've been I was a singer, and I've been a singer in bands since like high school, all the way high school, college, grad school, after school. I love it. So yeah.
What kind of music are you singing?
Rock music.
Okay.
Yeah, which surprises a lot of people.
I know. Well, I love asking that question, because you find out some things about people you would never have known.
Yeah.
Are there places online where we might be able to hear you or see you sing?
No comment on that. No comment.
I'm gonna have to do my own research on that to see Devon Laney behind the microphone. All right, and then the final question is, who is your hero or your biggest inspiration, and why?
Gosh, from a personal standpoint, my heroes are my grandfather. My grandfather was just an incredible man. I learned so much from him. He never went to college, but I learned so much from him about life, about business, about relationships, and he was just such an incredible leader. And I guess I don't know if it was because I often say that I feel like when I went to grad school to get my MBA later on in life, I already knew all that stuff. I knew everything there. I had learned it all from my grandfather. He had not put it in, as eloquent business terms as I was hearing in grad school, but the concepts, I knew them. I had learned them all from my grandfather years earlier. And so he is still a hero to me personally. And then as I got older, I'm a big fan of history. I'm a big history buff, and so I love Winston Churchill, and I just think from a leadership perspective, some of the things he did were just incredible. And granted, he was a different time, and
Yeah.
you know, he drank a lot and he smoked cigars and a lot of other things. But man, he
Yeah.
was an incredible leader, and
Yeah.
so I looked to him as a leader as well.
That's great. Appreciate those answers. And finally, before we hop off, I want to make sure that our viewers or our listeners know where to go to find out more about the work that you're doing at 36 Degrees North. Where's the best place for them to keep up to date on all the great things that you guys are doing in Tulsa?
Yeah, no, hey, thank you again, Ben, for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You can find us on all these standard sort of usual online. We have our website, all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those places. But our website, 36 Degrees North, you can find us there. Or you can really, the best way is just to abbreviate that, which is 36n.co. That'll get you to our website, which from there you can get to everything else. You can sign up for our newsletter and have access to all that we're doing. And we'd love to connect you to any way we can. And if we can ever be a resource or of any help to you or anyone that's watching or listening, happy to help any way we can.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us. It was great to talk to you and get your perspective on everything that you guys are doing. Of course, I want to encourage everybody else that's listening to also go to the Ridge website where you can learn about Ridge. That's ridg.com. And you can subscribe to our Ridge YouTube channel and our Facebook page for more updates and more videos just like this one. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Take care out there.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks so much, Devon.
Okay. That was awesome, man. Thank you.